This is Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Two of the program, Money Moves, coming at you live from downtown Las Vegas, Circa Resort and Casino. He's Jonathan Von Tobel. I'm Stormy Buonantony. Got a great hour coming up on tap. We're going to kick things off with a little NBA, but we've got plenty of updates in the National Football League, some injuries that you need to be aware of. We're going to puck around and find out. A little hockey coming up as well with an 8-game slate on deck and best bets as always at the end of the hour. Did want to clarify one thing that we were speaking about with Adam Burke a little while ago as we were talking about kind of the coaching carousel and James Franklin ultimately getting hired. Lane Kiffin has said that there's no ultimatum on the Pat McAfee show earlier today. Whether it's true or not, still TBD, but still something exciting to follow. I think I'm sold on him staying.
Then why hasn't he said that?
Because he's got to think about it.
Okay. So there's a chance he's going to leave.
I mean, there's a chance with anything, right? But
I just feel like if you were going to stay, you might as well.
It might be. I'm just reading into the E60 that they did on him too much earlier this football season because I was very invested in like the way that he has matured as a person and an adult, you know, and in his career.
Say that with such confidence.
No, I mean it. The way that he has matured over the course of his career, like a lot of things were kind of put on his plate early on, given like everything with his father, Monty, and the opportunities that he got as a very young person that he probably wasn't ready for in the moment, and he didn't handle things very well, but having a family and leaning on them, and that's like, I feel like he has changed a lot in the last 5 to 10 years.
We had two coaches who were up for the job at Penn State who not immediately, but within a week or 2 weeks signed extensions with their respective programs. And Kurt Cignetti and I was going to call him Matt Raiola.
Matt Rule.
Matt Rule.
Don't get me started on Raiola. Yeah, you didn't even remember his name was Dylan the other day.
That's right. I totally forgot about that. Because you just said Dylan. I was like, who?
We were talking about our bet with Avery Johnson and Dylan Raiola.
Can't refer to them as their first name.
And I said, well, Dylan did XYZ. Yeah. And then you're like, who's that?
I don't get to. I'm not like, I'm not talking to these guys every day like some people.
I've never met Dylan Raiola.
You didn't have Big Ten Media Days?
No, that was a Tim Murray interview.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Anyway, whole point here being is that, I don't know, I just feel like if you were going to stay, you could have made it happen already.
He said on the Pat McAfee show, I love it here. I'm having a blast. So
like every coach, I would be willing to bet that almost every coach before they left said they loved it at their spot that they were prior to leaving.
I mean, I'm curious what people who really know him think diving into it, because I've been in some conversations with coaches behind the scenes where they've been pretty honest and transparent about stuff. And it's like, okay, this is off the record. We're not going to talk about it. But you can tell even with them saying the right thing, it's like the way that they say it, you're like, oh, that dude's gone, you know? And with Lane, I just don't get that vibe. So we'll see. Only time will tell. But we do have a lot of NBA to get to. We mentioned off the top of the show earlier, huge stars dealing with injuries right now.
Yeah, so we do have some breaking news, by the way, in that regard. LeBron James will play tonight, according to Sharanya. So LeBron will be making his season debut in a few hours.
Okay.
Like 7.
So then that's good. Let's start there, because he obviously got brought back up from the G League stint that he was doing just to get his body right, coming back from the sciatica. We had the conversation yesterday about how may it or may it not impact what this thing looks like for the Lakers, who have had such a great start to the season. What do you think about him getting injected in the lineup today?
And I mean, big picture, I think it works. We'll see what he's like coming back after a little bit of a layoff. But look, last year, if you look at the numbers where LeBron was on the floor with Austin Reeves and Luka Doncic, they were exceptional offensively. Well over 120 points every 100 possessions. Having said that, they did only outscore opponents by just over 1 point per 100 possessions because they weren't a good defensive trio. And I think that's just what this Lakers team is going to be. So I think that he's going to be fine. I don't think you're going to get any drop-off on offense. The question just becomes, is the early going to be a little bit rougher? I don't think so. I am going to go out on a limb and say, the best player potentially of all time is going to be able to hit the ground running and be able to understand how to work with guys like Austin Reeves and Luka Doncic here.
Double-digit favorites at home against the Jazz as well, sitting 12.5, total 238.5. Do you think that seems a bit fair considering what the Utah Jazz have been?
I mean, yeah, I think it depends, too. I mean, the Jazz have been a little all over the place. They got off to a pretty good start. They're coming off of a ridiculous 150-147 double overtime win over the Chicago Bulls. That, of course, preceded a spot. You know, if you remember last week, we talked about the good scheduling spot catching Atlanta on the second leg of a back-to-back in the third game in 4 nights after you had a day of rest, and they ended up losing that game. But to your overall point here, they've been plucky. They have covered some of these numbers. I would think that they're offensively capable enough to stay inside of a number like this here today against the Los Angeles Lakers. Lakers are obviously a big brand, and the injury report's pretty clean for them as well. At this point, or at least last look, really clean report. George Niang really the only name of note for Utah. So we're leaning a little bit toward 12.5. And if we're kind of building on the point here, LeBron coming back is a big thing. But working your way back, if there's going to be a minutes restriction, whatever it is, maybe the market overvaluing the brand for the Jazz. But I think that they are offensively capable enough to stay inside of this number. The injury that we should note to keep an eye on is Kyle Filipowski, their rookie, who has played really, really well. See if he can be available today. But that's definitely something worth monitoring.
Okay, the Milwaukee Bucks not in action today. They'll be back Thursday against the 76ers. They've dropped 3 of their last 4 games and now are losing Giannis, at least in the short term. He had to exit yesterday's loss to the Cavs with a groin injury in the second quarter. MRI slated for today. I haven't seen an update on it, but Doc Rivers did say post-game it didn't look great. He's been having such a great start to the season in terms of the numbers, averaging more than 32.5 points per game, 11.3 rebounds, 7.1 assists overall on the year, and a marquee player in the league now dealing with something serious. Yeah,
and a marquee player, obviously, for Milwaukee, who has had a season that has been heavily reliant on him, and that's going to be the big point here. When Giannis is off the floor this season, they've been outscored by 12.8 points per 100 possessions. Their offense specifically, 104.2 points in the minutes per 100 possessions without Giannis on the floor. That is good for the 4th percentile in the NBA. In the most used lineup for the Bucks without Giannis on the floor, I never know how to say this, the 0th percentile? Like it's a 0. They're not good. Their average is just a point per possession in the most used lineup without Giannis. So the whole point here being they're not good without him. They're not probably going to be a particularly great team without him either. Not much of a presence, you would think, too, when you look at, like, at the rim, for example. He's a great pressurer of the rim for opponents. Free throw rate with him on the floor, just 12.5 made free throws every 100 shot attempts. It's just an offense that looks like on the surface is going to struggle greatly without their best creator on the floor. Victor Wembanyama also dealing with a left calf strain. It's the big one. He will reportedly miss a few weeks, suffered the injury in Friday night's NBA Cup loss to the Warriors, missed Sunday's game with the Kings, and we've seen significant odds movement tracked to that because, as you mentioned in the first hour of the program, there is the 65-game minimum now that must be played in order to win awards. His odds movement for league MVP have gone from 70-1 all the way out to 90-1. He was a minus 250 favorite for Defensive Player of the Year, now a 4-1 shot. Here is our guy, Zach Cohen, on the Hardwood Handicappers podcast, breaking down his thoughts on what this means.
There are some ramifications for this. I would say that in terms of the team's success for the San Antonio Spurs, it's not so bad, in my opinion. Like, I don't think that they're going to really fall out of the picture too much. I mean, when you look at the Western Conference playoff standings, they definitely want to be in the top 6, and maybe towards the end of these 2-3 weeks, they won't be. I mean, they've gotten off to a great start this season, currently in 5th place in the West, but I don't think they're going to fall too much further than 8th. And if Wemby does come back and there are no setbacks, there is going to be a lot of basketball left to be played for San Antonio to just kind of crawl back up. And I do think that they are, the 5th or 6th best team in the West. So I think that they are going to get back to where they want to get as long as he doesn't suffer another injury, a little bit further down the road.
Hardwood Handicappers available wherever you get your podcast. That's
right. Correct. Along with Pod of the Futures, which this was a very big topic on today. Look, this is huge. I would agree generally with Zach's premise that, like, overall standings, it's fine. Like, he's not going to miss too much time. Outside of another big injury, then maybe you're going to be able to recover whatever you lose over the next 3 weeks. For what it's worth, over the next 3 weeks, Memphis, Atlanta, Phoenix, Portland, part of a 4-game road trip, Memphis again. So you might take some losses there, but ultimately you should be fine. The big impact here is what you talked about, Defensive Player of the Year. The key for this injury is that he is going to be reevaluated in 2 to 3 weeks. That does not mean he's going to come back. That just means they're going to look at the calf and say, okay, what do we do from here? So they can reevaluate it in 2 weeks, Stormy, and say, yeah, you need another 2 weeks. Like, that is on the table. So with that in mind, I think you're operating with the assumption that Victor Wembanyama is not going to meet the 65-game threshold to win an award. So let's do it from this point. Let's assume that they reevaluate him in 2 weeks, say, all right, slow ramp up, you're going to be back, which is generally what they do. He's not going to come back right away. So let's say he misses 3 weeks. If you go 3 weeks from today, that would mean missing an additional 10 games for him. If he is back right then, that's what we're assuming, okay? That means that if you have to have that threshold of 65 games, he would at least miss only, or he could only miss 6 games the rest of the season for him to be eligible for that 65 games. We have back-to-backs. You have a calf injury now, which is a soft tissue injury. The assumption would be that he's not going to be able to make that threshold. So with that, and we can get to this on the other side, it completely opens up Defensive Player of the Year. Not only with the way it's currently priced, but if we're assuming that he's eliminated from contention, why is he 4-1? So that would mean that there's even, I think, further down the board, some names to look at here. I think there's some flawed favorites at the top of the board. 3 guys stuck out to me in this market in the range of 80-1 to 150-1 that I think are kind of we're taking some shots out at this point as we move forward.
Okay. Can we discuss some of those names when we come back?
No, that's for tomorrow.
No, I think
of course,
we're going to do it.
Of course.
Also, with that in mind, when it comes to the other future that you have on Victor Wembanyama,
Yeah.
Does it impact that as well, like the teams?
Yeah,
Okay.
So what Stormy's referencing is preseason I have all NBA first team plus 250. And remember what I called it at the beginning of the year. This is a bet that Victor Wembanyama won't get hurt. And he got hurt.
There you go.
Yep.
We are going to talk a little bit more NBA coming up. We got hoops and hockey on deck throughout the course of this hour. And reminder, too, if you're a VSiN Pro subscriber, in addition to all just the general betting content we have, we also now have VSiN's AI player prop projections tool. We've got it in the NFL, and we have all season, but now we've also added the association where you can get prop projections for points, rebounds, assists, three-point, and more at vsin.com/subscribe.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
So let's hear it. Defensive Player of the Year, the market is shifting. Victor Wembanyama dealing with a calf strain. He's going to be out for the next few weeks at least, which with that, his odds have gone out significantly. He was a big odds-on favorite, now available 4-1. But you said before the break there are some names farther down the board you think deserve a look.
Yeah, so I think you start the case with undercutting some of the guys at the top. And so, for example, I think Chet Holmgren should probably be the favorite to win this award, given Wembanyama's absence and injury. So, and he is plus 150. I think you can quibble with the price, considering, Holmgren has missed time. He's also a spindly dude who, could take a hard fall and all of a sudden be out for a few games. So that is something you should consider. You should all consider the fact that...
I like that description.
What?
A spindly dude.
He is. You should also consider the fact that, Stormy, I don't know if you know this, the Thunder are a very good team.
Whoa.
They play with a lot of really good defensive players. So you do wonder, as a media member, how do I realistically cut that pie up and say Chet Holmgren deserves all of or most of the credit to the point where I believe him to be the best defensive player in the NBA this season? That, I think, is something where you might see the Thunder cannibalize each other just a little bit on the fringes, and maybe it's not enough for him to win the award. Now, having said that, voters are simpletons. They might just vote for him because he is, the rim protector on the best defensive team in the NBA. That actually might happen. But with that being said, let's look around at some stuff. And by the way, case in point, they are in the 99th percentile defensive rating when Holmgren is on the floor. They're in the 93rd when he's off. So, this is a good defensive team no matter how you cut it. Evan Mobley at 4-1. I think should not be there, should not be priced in that way. I think he is there because he was, and you don't want to take away from what he did last year, he was given the award last year by default when Victor Wembanyama, of course, got sidelined by the blood clot, and thus they, the media, scrambled to give it to somebody. Let's just give it to this guy. Evan Mobley so far this year, 8.8 rebounds, 6.2 defensively per game, 1.6 blocks, and 1.2 steals per game. 2 very solid metrics. However, on the floor, 111.7 defensive rating, 70th percentile, above average. When he's off the floor, 48th percentile, 115.8. A difference, but not a staggering difference like we're going to see in some of these other candidates that I'm going to mention. Dyson Daniels, don't think you should really be up there at 9-1 either. He's a perimeter player. It's hard to give this award to perimeter players because media members who have votes would actually have to do their jobs and actually analyze and watch perimeter defenders. He led the league in steals by a mile, set the record for most steals in a single season, and didn't really come close to winning this award a season ago when the big favorite ultimately fell by the wayside. So far this year, the metrics are there, but only 2.3 steals per game, well off the clip and pace from where he was last year. And just a sneaky thing, I don't think it's a big deal, but on the floor, a 114.3 defensive rating. Off the floor, they give up 4.3 points per 100 possessions fewer. So they're better defensively when Daniels is off the floor. So I'll stop the analysis there and just say, I think at the top we're kind of a little flawed here. So with that, where do you go? So I had 3 names that came up. The first one is an old name that we know very well. When he is on the floor this year, his team gives up 107.3 points per 100 possessions. That's in the 91st percentile. When he is off the floor, they give up 20 more points per 100 possessions. 127.1 is the defensive rating when he's off the floor. Good for the 4th percentile. Rudy Gobert, 50-1. He's averaging 1.8 blocks, 0.6 steals, 6.5 rebounds per game in terms of defensive rebounds, 9.6 overall. He's got the respect of media members where they believe him to be a very good defender. The on-court, off-court numbers are there. And I think if you're taking a shot, if you want mid to long-range shot, Gobert's there. Keep in mind, too, one of the things that works for him here, if you're looking at the odds, and for our audio audience, we'll list this off, Luguentz Dort, who is above him right now at 50-1, has already missed 7 games. So Dort might not even be able to make that 65-game margin either. So I do think Rudy might be a little mispriced given what we've seen in the early going. I will give Zach Cohen credit for this one. I dug into this a little bit more. I actually really like this one. 150-1, Jalen Suggs. 3.9 rebounds, not really going to get it. I bring up rebounds because voters do believe them to be, and they are, defensive metrics. They kind of lean toward front court players, so it's somewhat important. 0.3 blocks, 1.6 steals. However, this is the big one, the big feather in Suggs' cap. When he's on the floor, the Magic only allow 104.1 points per 100 possessions. That is good for the 96th percentile. When he is off the floor, their defensive rating balloons to 119.7. That's about 15 more points per 100 possessions allowed by Jalen Suggs. Again, 150-1. Perimeter player, kind of tough, but does have the reputation of being a very good guard defender that he might be able to do enough here without the steals to actually get it done. And then the last one I wanted to bring up.
I like the Gobert one the best so far.
Yeah,
Sorry,
51, 55-1. Again, kind of long in the tooth. He's been there, bald now.
He's done it. The respect factor, though, all of that. Yeah. I like that argument.
The last one that I thought was worth bringing up, and this is going to be like the shakiest of them all, even though the odds are actually shorter than Jalen Suggs, I think at least. Donovan Clingan over in Portland. So when Clingan plays, they give up 114.3 points per 100 possessions when he is on the floor. When he is off the floor, and that's only good for like the 57th percentile. When he's off the floor, though, that drops dramatically. For some reason, I don't know why this is not filtering for me. Either way, though, when he's off the floor, it balloons out to about, I think, 120 or so. So, again, they're a really below-average defensive team when he's not out there. Clingan also does have some of the counting stats that you're going to like. He is blocking shots at a pretty high rate. As of today, Clingan is averaging about 1.4 blocks per game, just under 0.7 steals, and 9 rebounds. I think he would, as a front court player, have some of the eye of the media members that would look toward him and say, hey, if Portland continues to play at this pretty decent level, they're a decent defensive team. The difference with him on the court, again, we're talking 80-1 here with Clingan. That might be worth it, but those are 3 names that kind of stuck out a little bit here to win this. And I might just be doing too much, and you might look at a guy like Amen Thompson, who at 9-1 is a good perimeter defender for one of the best defensive teams in the NBA in Houston. But those were 3 of the names that kind of stuck out to me.
No, I think it's interesting because the Wembanyama injury, it opens the door in a different way for people to have to think a little bit. And who knows if voters are actually going to do their homework, if you can trust them on that as the season goes, if somebody doesn't necessarily pull away, kind of dive into some of those deeper metrics. But it does matter, and I think that this is a completely different market now with this injury news to Wemby. The Spurs are in action, by the way, today without him.
Well, we should just note again, I'm operating under the assumption that he is not going to make the mark of 65 games. This market is still saying he will because he's at 4-1. So again, just kind of cutting into the probability of him winning it. But I'd put it this way: if I told you right now, I could guarantee you he would play 65 games. Don't you think he wouldn't be 4-1?
Right.
And
you'd say grab that 4-1 immediately. Yes.
But I don't think with the margins that we're talking about here that he's going to be back with enough time and then the rest of the season not miss that few amount of games to keep him in there. And again, they got bigger fish to fry. That's the other part about this. Shams in his report said that they were going to slow roll his return, that they know that big picture we'd rather have him play 60 games, miss out on some awards, but have him be available for a potential playoff series as opposed to not having him out there and rushing him back just so he can maybe win a Defensive Player of the Year or something of that nature.
Spurs make the playoffs minus 330, by the way, the no plus 250. And as I mentioned, they are in action today. This has gone from them being 6.5-point favorites, though, down to 5.5, hosting the Grizzlies. Total 233.5. That's one game of what is a 6-game card tonight. Last couple minutes here. Any games that did catch your eye as you were going through?
No, I mean, there's a lot of injuries that you want to sift through here today. For example, like big one of the night, Detroit on the road against Atlanta. Pistons, I didn't see, I have to pull this up what their injury report is because that was a questionable for a couple of key dudes. Second leg of back-to-back, so I didn't see it this morning. Atlanta got a couple of questionables that matter, though. Onyeka Okongwu, Kristaps Porzingis, Zachary Ricochet, all questionable to play here today. So there's some noise on the injury report there. As you see right now, Hawks have flipped to about a 1.5-point favorite. So that would lead you to believe that maybe there's some market belief that some of the questionables for Detroit potentially won't be available. Officially listed right now, Cade Cunningham and Tobias Harris, obviously Cunningham being the most important of those. So can't really dive in there. I guess one of the spots that is somewhat interesting, Golden State's on the road against Orlando. Pretty clean injury report for Golden State in that we at least know what's going to happen here. Buddy Hield is a probable. Jonathan Kuminga will not play. Banchero's out, and then Suggs questionable. That's obviously big for – that's the other part, by the way, about this. Jalen Suggs 150-1. He's also missed 4 games already and questionable today. So if he misses today, that's obviously a blow. But the Warriors are playing the 5th game of a 6-game road trip. Magic are back home after an overtime loss in Houston. Both have been playing relatively well, but I agree with the market pushing this up from 2.5 to 3.5. I think that given where the Warriors are at, and they're playing pretty good basketball, where they can play defensively without Banchero, the leading guy offensively for Orlando, I think Golden State would be in a spot to get this done here tonight. Okay. So we'll see if maybe we get a little bit more of an adjustment, maybe coming back down. But to me, it would be Orlando. It's going to be a Freudian slip. Warriors are nothing here in this spot against Orlando.
Yeah, again, laying 3.5 on the road, total 223.5. Other lines just to be aware of. Boston laying 10.5 in Brooklyn, taking on the Nets, total 223.5. That Pistons-Hawks game you mentioned, shortest spread of the day at 1.5.
Should be a good game.
We do have a 2.5 with the Portland Trail Blazers favored over the Phoenix Suns. The Lakers, as we mentioned earlier, with the return of LeBron, minus 12.5-point favorites hosting the Utah Jazz, total 238.5. And I think that's all of them. Yeah, ran through.
Well, we didn't mention it. I'm sure many on the network have, but how about John Morant being injured? So he's going to miss some extended time for Memphis. That's a long injury report. Brandon Clark, Ty Jerome, John Morant, Scottie Pippen Jr., Javon Small, all not out there. Yeah. Well, and for San Antonio, with Zach, he brought up the fact that they might not slip too far. It's not just Wemby. Remember, Harper's still out. Castle's not going to play today. So there are some injuries that this team is dealing with.
Speaking of injuries, we've got a lot of them in the NFL right now as well. What's the latest on Michael Penix Jr.? Are the Browns going to be able to figure things out with Shedeur Sanders if Dylan Gabriel can't go? We're discussing it all and more next on Money Moves.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
This is the time of the year in the NFL where the injuries start piling up, and we have had a lot of them this past week, specifically at the most important position on the field. We talked about a couple of those injuries earlier, and there are still more that we have to delve into, JVT, including Michael Penix Jr., who is going to be placed on injured reserve. Still, quote, working through the medical process to determine the exact severity of the injury. And if it is season ending, like many assume that it will be. In the meantime, Kirk Cousins will take over as the starter. Easton Stick, his backup. And head coach of the Atlanta Falcons, Raheem Morris, had this to say about the offense with Kirk Cousins at the helm.
Yeah, it's fair to say it'll look different. Obviously with Kurt and Mike, different playing styles, definitely look a little bit different. What Kirk can do really well, that's what we'll try to do. The things that he does well, the thing that he did well for us when he was starting, some of the things he's done in his past, we'll be able to do some of those things. We'll definitely bounce back and definitely get some, have an ability to sit down and talk with him throughout the course of the week. But definitely fair to say that it looked different than what it looked with Mike. You named a lot of the differences, left-sided offense, right-sided offense, some of those different things, but they look a little different.
And the line has moved in a negative way toward the Falcons with a perceived downgrade with Kirk Cousins going. So I'm curious if you think that is the reality of the situation or not. Atlanta goes from a 2.5-point favorite to now a 1.5-point dog, taking on a division opponent in the New Orleans Saints on the road. Total low in this one at 39.5.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel conflicted. I mean, I think there's probably a downgrade. I don't think that's coming out of the out of left field. It's just a question of what is the degree of the downgrade. I'd be curious to ask you if you were to compare like just Michael Penix versus like Tua Tagovailoa. If you were to say who has been better so far this year, what would your initial thought be?
I would say
I'm not trying to catch you.
No, I would say Tua in my personal opinion.
Right. So,
yeah.
like, you know what I mean? So it's, and by the way, you'd be right in that they're both identical. Expected points added per play for both of them, they're tied. So it's just the thought of, okay, even if there is a downgrade from Penix to Kirk, how dramatic is it?
Yeah.
I know Cousins really wasn't that good, but Penix has been kind of, fits and starts, not particularly consistent. There's a reason why this team is in this position right now. Mm-hmm. You see a bunch of these weird losses. I know we like to make the joke, but you go back to the shutout where you grinded the film. Like, he wasn't particularly great against Carolina in the first game, and we can go on and on. So I think you could downgrade them. I guess the question just becomes, like, to the point where you're saying they're only – a point better than New Orleans? I mean, run with what we do on Fridays. Again, home field advantage, I think, is worth 1.5 points. Without Kirk or without Michael Penix, are they equals to the New Orleans Saints?
So I'll say I don't think this is exclusively a Penix downgrade, though, because Drake London is also going to be out for this game. He's week to week with the PCL. And obviously he's been awesome and super impactful for what they do. So I think it's kind of twofold.
No, that's a fair rebuttal, too. So then you have to factoring that in when you look at where this market is at. I still always my initial thought is always to kind of push back on where we're at, because everything we're talking about is baked into these numbers. Mm-hmm. So if you want to come in and bet this, the question you have to answer is, like, if you're betting the Saints, you're saying these absences are not factored in enough and we're going to play this with New Orleans, or the other side, which is we're going a little too far, I'm going to go the other direction. And I tend to lean toward maybe we're going a little too far, but Atlanta hasn't, I don't know. I mean, Atlanta, outside of this last performance, they covered the game against, and again, this is Penix, but like, they covered a game against Indianapolis. They covered the game against the New England Patriots. Like, there's a little something there, but as you pointed out, not only was Penix in those games, so was London. And
so I have a couple metrics for you, and this might make you more confused than firm on an opinion on this, but so Cousins has started one game, subbed in for two more. In those, he has only passed for 4.8 yards per attempt, which would be the lowest mark in the league, below Dylan Gabriel, below Tyrod Taylor, Cooper Rush, Cam Ward, like, just to put that into context for you. His passer rating is over 10 points lower than Penix's. But again, sample size is a big part of this. The expected points added per drop back is lower, and so a lot of these numbers that are worse. But he also has a better sack and pressure percentage. He has a quicker release, so I think that's something that will help in this if he can do a little bit more of the dink and dunk, get the ball out of his hands quickly. The completion percentage is better by a pretty good margin. He throws fewer off-target passes as well. So it's like, what do you view as more important? And is the limited sample size with him not getting first-time reps enough to make you think, okay, maybe if he gets a little bit more opportunity, it'll be different?
I'll tell you what. You don't have to bet every game, first off. So maybe,
facts.
Yeah.
That's a great thing. That's a great reminder. We try to give you guys opinions on everything, but when it comes to NFL Sunday, you can be selective. It's okay. We don't have to bet everything. This can be a stay away.
Having said that, I mean...
You're firing on Atlanta.
No, I'm not firing, but I mean, I feel like this is a pretty strong teaser leg.
Oh, yeah.
Atlanta plus 7.5, again,
like
getting that up, low total, getting up to 7.5. You're pairing it with any other option that you deem appropriate, but I think that for sure... As somebody who feels like maybe we've gone a little too far in one direction, I would feel confident in using Atlanta in a teaser leg.
Okay. I like that. Let's get to another one here. Tyrod Taylor is slated to start over Justin Fields at Baltimore coming up on Sunday. Aaron Glenn said Friday that he was evaluating everything. And
man, we're hitting all the good games.
Live a little, okay? He said he would be evaluating everything. And by that, I wonder how much of it is just like, okay, which one of these guys can throw a forward pass? Yeah. And Tyrod Taylor came out on top, even with him dealing with a lingering knee injury of his own. And I put some of these numbers in the rundown. The Jets rank 32nd in yards per play. Fields has combined for 505 passing yards in his last 5 starts. And he is 30th of 33 qualified passers in total QBR.
That's half a
so
thousand.
I feel like we should get a little bit of an upgrade And obviously, Tyrod Taylor doesn't have some of the other skill set items that Justin Fields has, but sure. I view this as an upgrade personally.
I think you should, yes. I'm not going to make the case now the other way. I mean, you have to. I know your favorite stat over the last few weeks has been net passing yards.
Because it's been so bad.
It's been very bad for Justin Fields.
You're like, why do you keep going with the net? Because look at the number. It's 42.
I was going to say, or negative throughout some of these games that you and I have watched on Sundays throughout the course of it. So, no, I would agree with you. I mean, just some semblance of a downfield passing attack is going to help. I know a lot of people were freaking out, too, about, like, A.D. Mitchell in the drops. It does help Fields a little bit in that game. But either way, this is a team that just desperately needs some semblance of an offense that can throw the football. So I would get it. I think the question really just becomes, like, all right, do we trust Baltimore? Like, what do you do here? It's two evils. Now, Lamar Jackson did not play well last week against Cleveland. However, it was Cleveland. I mean, you have the odds-on favorite to win Defensive Player of the Year on the other side of Myles Garrett, who's wreaking havoc, a defense that generally has been above average all season long. Lamar, though, has also been dealing with different injuries. Just came back from one, didn't practice one day last week because of this sore knee that he is dealing with as well. So, I don't know. We just barely watched them get by Cleveland and needing a last-second drive and a quarterback injury to take advantage of to get that done. Do you trust them in the sense of laying 13.5? I don't think I can get there.
Yeah, it feels like too big of a number, in my opinion. I know that there hasn't been a lot about the New York Jets that makes you scream, I want to bet on this team. Yeah. But we talk about this all the time. When you're getting double digits, 2 full scores nearly here on your side, that's a good place to be in the NFL more often than not when it comes to some of these things. Yeah. Another game with quarterback impact, the Browns, who have not named a starter as of yet for this week against the Raiders.
It's got to be Shador, right?
Good chance. Yeah. It's going to be Shador Sanders. Dylan Gabriel suffered a concussion on Sunday. Sanders stepped in, went 4-16, 47 yards, had a pick and 2 sacks. Here is Kevin Stefanski, followed by Shador on the performance.
Shador's putting in great work, on the field, in the meeting room. He will be better with reps that he's getting, like any player would be better. But we trust him, and he's somebody that's continued to put in the work and will continue to do so.
I don't think I played good. I don't think I played good at all. I think it's a lot of things, we need to look at, during the week and go and just get comfortable even throwing routes, with Jerry and throwing routes with all those guys. So I think that was my first ball to him all year. But other than that, I just think overall we just got to go next week and understand so then we have a week to prepare stuff I like to do.
Yeah, and we talked about this yesterday too, that backup quarterbacks don't get reps with the first team guys. And so instantly, I think you're going to have at least a better connection and a better chemistry when you step in this week, having those practices under your belt. The Browns are getting 3 points here in Vegas, taking on a Raiders team that just got embarrassed last night from the Dallas Cowboys. They're not exactly the most confident team in the world right now. And the Browns do have a good defense that's going to be behind them, supporting that young quarterback and ideally getting the football back in his hands. So total in that one, 36.5 with these struggling offenses is interesting. Do want to let you guys all know, by the way, that tomorrow's Wednesday.
That is true.
And in addition to it being a West Coast bias day, it's also Blackjack Wednesday at Brocco, where you can hit the tables and play blackjack. If luck doesn't go your way, get this. You're still getting 50% off your losses back in Brocco cash up to $500. Use the promo code VSIN to grab your bonus and try again with house money. Go to playbrocco.com today. Play Brocco, BRACCO.com, promo code VSIN. We've got to step aside when we come back. Boy, this show has gone by fast. We're wrapping things up. Going to give it our plays of the day. And for me on the ice, time to puck around and find out, ladies and gents. We're closing things out next.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSIN, the Sports Betting Network.
Tuesday edition of Money Moves, live from downtown Las Vegas, Circa Resort and Casino. Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you. World's largest sportsbook at our back. Not too shabby a backdrop each and every day. And you said there was something important we needed to discuss.
Well, I don't know if it's important, but Brad Magnus tweeted in checked in and said, for Dyson Daniels' sake, if these voters don't vote for guards, because we're talking about Defensive Player of the Year and how this works, how the heck did Marcus Smart win it a few years ago? And Brad, if you'll remember, actually, Mitch and I talked about this today. Mitchell Armas and Pod to the Futures, wherever you get your pod, which will be out later today.
Money Moves also available. If you missed any of the show today, don't forget, you can always get Money Moves in podcast form. Never miss a minute of the program. Onward. Go ahead.
Also, Harvard Handicappers, which I am a regular guest on Thursday, so check that out too. Anyway, we can go tit for tat the whole way. I've got like 3 podcasts I'm on.
Download, subscribe,
totally
5-star.
I would appreciate it. Anyway, so Brad, and for anybody else who doesn't remember, and Mitch and I talked about this, that was actually one of the most I will die. When I pass and I'm on my deathbed, and my sons come in to hear my last death rattle, my final words would be, Marcus Smart winning Defensive Player of the Year was a ridiculous thing that happened. Because if you remember that year, Robert Williams was actually going to win Defensive Player of the Year. However, near the end of the season, he got hurt. They were on their way to being the best defensive team in the NBA. They were red hot that season. They were on their way to losing to the NBA Finals later that year to the Golden State Warriors, if I remember correctly. So because Robert Williams got hurt, the media freaked out, and they had to give it to a Celtic. So they gave it to Marcus Smart, and there was this weird media push. Tim Bontemps wrote some big piece about guards and not winning Defensive Player of the Year a week after Robert Williams went down. Smart was never going to win the award, and then Williams got hurt, and so stepped in Smart, and the media gave it to him. That's how he won that award that year. I don't think that is a sign of things to come for perimeter players to win said award as you move forward. And we've even heard media members say, generally front court players will get my vote because I think that is where you get it, right? You're the backstop, you're the rim defender, all those sort of things. So that's why Smart won it. I don't think that's going to be something for Daniels to hang his hat on, or any of these guards that we're talking about, Jalen Suggs. To which that point, Brad also follows up, and this is always the key point for all of us, always shop around. Jalen Suggs, you can find at 300-1 as opposed to 150. We talked about Gobert at 55-1. There's a 60-1 out there. Yeah. And then I mentioned Klingon at 80-1. So as you pointed out, that's out there too.
Chet Holmgren, by the way, your favorite now following the Wembanyama injury, plus 150, that price. Okay, let's get to the best bets. Last night, not great for us on Monday Night Football. We were sweating out the Raiders for the contest, and I know you played it as a side bet as well. I had CeeDee Lamb over 26.5, longest reception. Did not get home because George Pickens stole it. What?
You going to take some blame for this?
Blame for what?
This is why we don't.
It's one bet that you already had placed.
This is why we don't get positive about things. You just move on. Don't call attention to it. Don't call attention to it.
So sue me that I gave my colleague, someone that I like to think of as a friend, but apparently I was wrong, Jonathan Von Tobel, for having a good weekend. You cannot then blame me for you losing a bet that you already had placed a week prior to any of this being discussed. Neither here nor there. Let's look to tonight, because there are a couple bets on the ice that I ended up firing on today.
Oh, yeah, let's go.
The Blues and Leafs over 5.5. I got it at minus 120. It's juiced up to minus 135 or a flat 6 when you look across the board right now. I prefer laying a little bit of juice and getting the win versus the push and getting your money back. So I think we're going to get goals in this one. The Leafs, even on their 5-game losing streak, still average 3 goals per game. They're just giving up 4 or 5 a night as well. On the season, they're giving up the second most goals per game in the league, only to be outdone by, guess who?
I don't know. Tell me.
St. Louis Blues. Come on. I thought I teed that up for you well.
Sorry. I was actually reading some news that I think we had missed or we maybe didn't mention, so I apologize. I was listening, though. I swear.
Okay. Is it really important? Do you need to break in?
Did we mention that C.J. Stroud was not going to play?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Just want to make sure.
Well, we didn't have it confirmed that he wasn't, but the expectation.
Confirmed.
Okay, confirmed.
Yes, there we go.
No C.J. Stroud.
Okay. That's why I wanted to point that out. Okay, see? So I was not listening for a very good reason.
Teamwork makes the dream work. So we're going to get the
we fumbled the handoff, but I recovered.
As you like to say, the long-necked Davis Mills experience once again on Thursday Night Football. But the St. Louis Blues, nobody hemorrhages more goals than them this season, giving up 3.84 goals against per game. The Leafs goaltender, Anthony Stolarz, he is out currently with an upper body injury, so we're going to get Joseph Woll again, who started on Saturday, gave up 3 goals at Chicago. Lone start of the season. That was a 3-2 loss, so stayed under. But I think with him in particular, some potential rust, still getting back in game shape after leaving the team for personal reasons. Toronto, 16-3 to the over this year, 9-1 their last 10. The lone one being Saturday. Blues, only 7 games on the road for them this year, but 5-2 to the over. So let's get some goals. Also, for inquiring minds, you as somebody who has invested in Austin Matthews, he was back on the ice today.
I mean, that's not happening.
He was initially, like on the initial timeline, they thought it was going to be a week week and that he might be available for this game. He is not. Chris Tanev also had a scary injury earlier this month, and he got back on the ice with the team today.
You have a better perception of how the season goes and, like what it would take over the course of a season to meet certain benchmarks. Dead for over 90.5 points?
I don't know where he's at right now. Hold on.
Okay. I mean, I know he had gotten off to a slow start in general, and then he got hurt.
I mean, yeah, the team has as a whole, but I would not think that he would get there, but like anything is possible.
He's at 14 points right now in 17 games played, obviously.
And then missing, depending on how many more he misses. I wouldn't say that's dead.
Okay. But on life support.
Yeah, it's not looking awesome, but that's not dead now.
Will he win the Hart Trophy?
No.
Right? Did I get that right, though, right?
That's MVP.
That's what they have, though.
I don't. Oh, okay. Yeah. I don't think so, but never say never, and I won't.
It's a very nice way of letting somebody down.
I won't crush your dreams.
If you were to ask that same question to me, I'm like, no, of course not.
I'm also invested in Islanders Stars today. New York, smack in the middle of a 7-game road trip. 4-1 so far on the trip. Lone loss last game at Colorado on Sunday, where it was a 1-goal game till late in the third period. So they're playing well. But, JVT, I think they could come crashing down. They needed overtime to win in 3 of those games. You head to Dallas to face a Stars team that is on a bit of a scoring heater. Dallas's last 2 games at Montreal and Philly beat them a combined 12-1. They've won 5 straight, 6 of their last 7. And I think the streak continues today, but you are not going to be profitable in the long run more often than not when you're laying over a minus 170 price. So I played this in regulation, hoping that maybe the Islanders have gotten some of their overtime games out of their system and that the Stars can just close this thing out in 60 minutes. Minus 115, that price. And then I also threw in a prop on rookie defenseman for the Islanders, Matthew Schaefer. Mm-hmm. And for anyone who pays attention to the NHL, this year's draft was not great in terms of all of the talent. He was a surefire number 1, and he's playing like it. In November, 7 points in 8 games. He had the OT game-winning goal against the Mammoth on Friday, surpassing Sidney Crosby as the youngest player in NHL history to have one of those moments. 4 power play goals. His average ice time this year, JVT, over 22.5 minutes. He leads the league in drawing penalties. Jake Ottinger in net for the Stars. He's been pretty up and down, and the Stars' penalty kill isn't any good. They're 25th in the league. You see the total in this game at 6.5. I think goals are going to come from both sides in this one. Even though, like I said, I like the Stars to win this game, I think the Islanders are still going to get their share of shots on goal, connect with some goals. And so I like Matthew Schaefer to have a point at what is still a pretty good plus 125 price.
All right.
Boom.
Like all 3.
Oh, and I added BYU money line.
Okay, there we go. BYU money line this week, too. As the streak matters not because Stormy will not be on the sidelines. What do you at this week?
BYU at Cincinnati. Let's go. Get it done, Cougs. I thought about laying the 2.5, but I'm just going money line here. I am still going to be in the state of Utah this week, though. Kansas State at Utah for me coming up. Can we talk about how I have a day game? Mm-hmm. I am going to start and finish a game for the first time all season in sunlight. Although it could be pretty overcast out there. It's a little cold in Utah these days.
As we have mentioned, as I tried to tell you, and I think I might still report you to the powers that be, I don't think that you should be on the sidelines. There's a clear conflict of interest with you and Avery Johnson, and I think that this should be something that should be reported.
I also picked the Utah Utes to make the college football playoff, so I don't think that's a fair argument. I think I'm actually very what's the word I'm looking for?
If you had to choose being right against me or winning that bet for Utah, what are we thinking?
You're right.
At least you got to think about it.
You're correct. I would like to. I mean, you're already growing the mustache. I would like to add something. I
Force me to grow
think
the
of
neck
something
beard?
good.
That would be terrible.
Have you
Nobody
ever?
wants to see. No, I've never tried that. No, I can't. It's awful.
How long do you let it go? Like how quickly do you have to shave? Is it like an every other day
twice
thing?
Twice a week.
Okay,
Yeah.
So it's not that bad.
It's pretty gnarly.
Is it
just
still?
doesn't look good. It just doesn't look good. It's a neck beard.
And
Has there been a neck beard that looks good?
Wait, so how does that work? And sorry, men, school
Biology?
me up. Do you just not grow hair right here?
Yes. It just right here. It just doesn't happen, and my cheeks are not as full.
Can you grow a goatee?
No.
Dang.
Yeah, it's a very sad thing.
Because that would be a fun one to make you do, too.
Is there any other of my insecurities we'd like to talk about here, Stormy?
Listen, I've been trying to grow one for years, too. I feel your pain. It just, sometimes just not in the cards for me. What can I say?
By the way, I'm gonna open this can of worms. We could talk about this tomorrow, right before we go out. But I have added another NHL future.
Oh.
Rangers 13-1 to win the Eastern Conference.
Okay, very exciting. The aforementioned Rangers in Vegas tonight, facing the Vegas Golden Knights.
Yep.
And they have been, for all of their faults at home this season, they have been awesome on the road. 9-1-1 this year away from Madison Square Garden. We'll see how they play today. Getting played a little bit. Okay, that's a wrap for us. For our producer, Justin Emery, for JVT, I'm Stormy Buonantony. Mitch Moss and Polly Howard coming up next. Follow the money.